On today's show, in life and in the great outdoors, everybody picks a path. These folks chose straight up. We strap on skis to explore one of Minnesota's most scenic winter trails off the beaten path. Our destination, a most unique winter camp. And the art behind ice fishing, shaped one carving at a time. Those stories and more next.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This week we're going to take a look at a few of our favorite winter adventures. You know what? It's kind of funny. It seems like every time we shoot, it's darn cold outside. Take this first story. We decided to head up to Lake Superior and it's 29 below zero. So what do? Strap on cross-country skis and head up a river.
For three hardy souls, adventure has no boundary.
It's brisk.
Maybe it should, especially at 22 below zero. On Lake Superior's Devil's Track River, cold feet aren't really an option. They're more like part of the deal.
Systems go. We're basically skiing and snowshoeing up a river.
It just winds up this beautiful canyon. You actually lose the sense that you're in Minnesota. It's going to take us about 45 minutes to an hour to walk up to our site.
It's a really beautiful canyon. It's laced with this really beautiful red rock.
Steve Davis, Pat Mackin, and Ryan McLaughlin are trudging towards a little-known Minnesota gem. Ever heard of Nightfall?
What's cool about Nightfall is the total adventure. You're getting in there further and further, and the walls are steeper and steeper, and then all of a sudden you turn this corner, and as you see, there it is.
A 240-foot Minnesota gem.
It's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful.
One of Minnesota's tallest waterfalls.
It's pretty spectacular.
Named Nightfall because few people can hike in here, climb the ice, and then get out before dark.
Nightfall is definitely one of Minnesota's premier climbing spots.
Not an easy one to beat, but getting to the top will be easier said than done.
Flaking out the rope.
Steve works the ropes, Ryan will climb to the top. If he can get there.
Wow.
That gets the adrenaline going.
That was scary.
Level back. Good to go.
Minnesota is quite an excellent place to ice climb, and a lot of people don't know it.
Is it strenuous? Yeah.
Especially at 20 below. After all, Steve's job is to just stand there and work the ropes. Belaying, it's called.
So you're cold while you're belaying, but when you climb, it's an intensely aerobic activity. Strength and endurance are pretty important.
But technique is the real key.
You have to develop the technique first. Otherwise, it's tremendously draining and difficult.
When I'm ice climbing, I'm completely 100% focused on climbing. You know, all the problems and the troubles that I have in my life, it just kind of seems to slip away.
Whoa!
In life, everyone picks a path. These guys just happen to choose straight up.
Yeah! Oh, that was amazing.
It's just an absolute gem that we have this in Minnesota, and I feel really lucky to be able to climb this.
Even if the climb lives up to its name, Nightfall.
Definitely lives up to its name, Nightfall. Absolutely.
Coming up, it's a Northwoods adventure, Sub-Zero style.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers. Rapala Ice Force. Border View Lodge. And by Star Bank.
Okay, it's time to trade in backcountry skis for classic cross-country cruisers. Again, weather becomes a factor, 35 below zero, as we explore a trail called the Banadad.
Way out, wild spots still exist, seemingly untouched by no hand other than Mother Nature's. In the cold world of cross-country skiing,
hey, are these moose tracks?
fresh tracks equal a Northwoods form of pure nirvana.
Oh, those are definitely moose tracks.
Up in northern Minnesota, skiers have access to darn near 200 miles of single and double track skiing along the Gunflint Trail.
Every time you turn a new corner, it looks new and it looks different.
It's all about the ups and the downs of deep woods skiing.
Good one!
Sure is soft snow.
We've come to pick ourselves up and focus on two remote trail systems called the Lace and the Banadad.
It's a public trail. I maintain it.
Ted Young grooms these trails as part of his Northwoods business called Boundary Country Treks.
We keep and maintain them as best we can. We bought some new grooming equipment this year, and we just started to use it, and I think it'll improve our grooming a lot, but it's still going to be a wilderness trail.
In that lies our story. See, Ted offers cross-country skiers like Leah Hineker and Karen Nicholas a chance to roam some of Minnesota's most scenic and wild trails. For these two skiers, the journey is only half the reason they come.
Here we are at the yurt.
Questions begin at the end of the trail. It's a surprise to some folks.
Well, is this a teepee? Is this a tent? And no, it's actually just more a semi-permanent structure that's out in the wilderness.
See, Boundary Country Treks maintains a couple of Northwoods shelters along the trail system. They're about 12 miles apart, and they are, in a word, different.
Technically, it's a gur, and it's a Mongolian house. The yurt is, I believe it's the Russian term for a Mongolian house. It was used by nomads on plains in Mongolia.
I like the fact that they're in the middle of nowhere. You can't just drive up to a yurt. You have to hike in, and no one's around you. It's just you in the woods.
And with temps well below zero, thank goodness for the camp's wood-fired sauna. Ted hauls in visitors' gear by snowmobile. Then comes camp's best part.
Tonight we're having the Mongolian fire pot dinner.
A tradition known mostly by Gunflint locals.
The charcoal is to warm the broth.
Ted whips up a rare Northwoods moment, best experienced in the cold dead of winter.
Well, it's yurt fare.
You just have to ask him to make it.
Think of this as a fondue.
After a full day on the cold trail, we end up here, bellied up to a warm table, surrounded by friends with nowhere to go. After all, we're home.
Time is what you do have out here, and that's a wonderful thing about it. So it's nice to take a few hours to eat a meal, enjoy conversation and each other.
The only worry on this night, keeping the fire stoked and the yurt tepid at 32 bitter degrees below zero. Folks up here call that sleeping weather.
The yurt's nice and warm. It's a great place to end the trip.
Eventually, night becomes day again, and we find ourselves back out on the chilly trail. just what we love about winter and its hidden secrets in the land of 10,000 frozen lakes and just as many snowy trails.
When you can ski for miles and miles in dense forest, it just doesn't feel any better.
Closed captioning from Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Lake of the Woods Tourism.
You know, an old winter hobby as old as time is making a big-time comeback in this part of the world. It is the art of the decoy.
When you think of art, a lot of different images come to mind. But if you're Eric Wallace, art means one thing. You see, Eric is an artist driven to be the best in his craft, carving spear decoys. It started just a few years ago during a high school class.
I went home and I bought a set of knives and I started carving some carvings on my own, and well, here I am now. So this is the first decoy I ever made. It was in a high school class, and I painted it with the paintbrush and some tempera paint and put marine varnish clear coat on it. I've come a long way since then.
Eric now works in a workshop in his parents' garage, mastering the steps to his carving creations.
I cross-hatch where I want the eyes to go. To carving a decoy, there's three things: carving, painting, and then the swimming. After each step, it just starts to look more and more like a fish, like a decoy. It really starts to come together. Now I'm drilling the leg cavity. That's for the lead to make the decoy sink. If it didn't have any lead, it would just float at the top of the water. So now I make sure that it sinks. This is a winner, so I hang this one up. This is the clear coating process. I like to seal up the decoys really good so that they don't absorb any water.
The decoys proved to be more than just winners in Eric's test tub. See, the decoy world is taking notice too.
These are my competition decoys. This is my walleye decoy that I entered last year and I got second place. Here's an Arctic char decoy for competition that I'm going to enter this year.
But this artist's journey is not only in the workshop, it's out on a lake as well.
Dark house spear fishing is a traditional way of fishing in Minnesota, where you cut a big block of ice out of the lake, put your dark house over it without any window so you can see under the water, then you run your decoy. This is just one that I made for myself, attached to your line. And then when the northerns come in, you drop a spear on them to harvest the fish. Yeah, it's a good feeling when you make a decoy and the fish come into the decoy.
Until then, Eric will keep fishing and of course, creating.
If you've never been to a special stretch of the Mississippi River during the winter, you're missing out. Here, the river has almost as much to offer in the winter as the summer.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Kinetico, Tracker Boats, and by Totem Resorts.
Newsflash, it's time for today's Minnesota Bound Classic. 30 years ago this week, Minnesota recorded some of its coldest temperatures on record. And wouldn't you know it, I was out in the middle of it winter camping as a kid. Go figure. I still like to winter camp. And every time I go out, I look for adventure.
The old cliche says, take a hike.
All right.
But never did it say when.
We'll see how this goes.
Or, more importantly, where.
Let's do snow. My commands will be ye and haw. Beautiful.
On a cold February day, 3 wanderers trudge off the beaten path and into Minnesota's winter woods.
I wonder how much snow we're gonna get. There's our marker right there. I'd say we're home. We're home. Home.
You're out here and you can really appreciate the landscape.
Oh, we're making progress. It's starting to look like home.
Once the camp work ends, our real fun begins. Really, the reason we've come. Just out behind camp, a widely untouched winter resource slowly slides by. Even on the coldest winter days, the Mississippi River runs.
This is gorgeous. I can't believe this.
There's a couple of power plants just upriver from here that they pull in river water to use to cool their operations.
Oh, those grub baits stink. Blech.
And that warm discharge of water allows this river to be open all season.
That means one thing.
Miss them.
Oh yeah.
Our very different version of ice fishing.
It would appear that Bill's a fish on. He's fighting it. The fish is fighting back. Bill holding strong.
Look at that. Holy smokes.
We have fish. The photographer moves in. There we go. Oh, that's peach.
Got him. Oh, boy, he whacked it. That is so cool.
That is the best.
You and your pictures. Fish on?
You've got to be really sick in the head to come out. I mean, here it is, February 4th. It's probably 28 degrees. To be standing in thigh-high water, you've got to be sick. Excellent.
Oh, another nice one. Oh, what's Jacob got?
Oh. Who says winter fishing isn't any fun, huh? Nice. It's just awesome. It's too good. And this great snow just makes it so much more beautiful.
Exactly why we love winter fishing. Although the light only lasts so long.
Oh, that campfire tonight, it's gonna feel like magic.
Eventually, all good things come to an end. And in winter camp, something else always begins. It's proof that Mississippi winter dreams,
A lot of those fish were shallow.
do come true.
It's always about, getting out, doing something new.
That old Mississippi River, if you have not been out to visit it this time of year, you are missing out. Well, that's all the time we've got for today's show. Don't forget, Ron and Raven are back next week. In the meantime, introduce Kid to the great outdoors.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. For more information on these stories and more, catch us on the web at mnbound.com. Share your stories on the Minnesota Bound Facebook page under the Share Your Story tab.